Hey guys, welcome to another live stream, a late night live stream here. Your driver Mike, I want to welcome you to another live stream. Unfortunately, today we are not talking about strategy. We're not talking about ways to increase your income with rideshare. We're talking about something that is tough to talk about, tough to see in the news today, that I saw in the news this morning. Today is Monday, March 19th, 2018. Last night on Sunday, the 18th, in Tempe, Arizona, a Uber self-driving Volvo XC90 was involved in a fatal accident around 10 p.m. Last night. Again, this is in Tempe, Arizona. I appreciate you joining. Thanks for joining. So, guys, we need to talk about what happened. We need to talk about the current landscape of autonomous vehicles. If these are safe, we have to talk about what happened last night. If you don't know, this is not the first time that one of Uber's XC90s, of course, again, their self-driving vehicle that they've partnered with Volvo to equip with their LiDAR technology, optics, quite a few cameras that allow the vehicle to see basically while it's driving. So this is not the first time that there's been an accident involving a Volvo XC90. However, this is the first time that any self-driving vehicle has been involved in a fatal accident. There's been other manufacturers that are testing their autonomous equipment live on roads right now. And guys, before we get into this, I want to mention that this live stream is not easy to do because there was a fatal accident and someone lost their life. Walking on a road, a woman was walking again around 10 p.m. with her bike, and we'll go into a few articles here. So I want to do this live stream with respect to the victim in this accident. There's investigations, of course, with police, I believe, escalated. I'm not sure how high. I know the Highway Safety Administration, I know this is being investigated. So I want to do this with respect to the victim and to talk about, again, the safety of self-driving vehicles. So, having said that, guys, I see you in the live chat. I appreciate you being here, guys. Kenneth Cooper, thanks for joining. Uber, Lyft, Shell, thanks for joining. Jose Contreras. It's tough to talk about. This is tough to talk about. If you don't know, again, guys, there was an accident in Tempe as well. And the reason why Tempe volunteered to have rideshare was trying to get some of testing away from California. California, here where I'm at, I'm here in San Diego, was quite receptive to autonomous vehicle testing. Not as quite without drivers. But let's mention that next month, in April of 2018, California jumped on board with Arizona to allow testing of autonomous vehicles on live roads without any drivers. Now, I can speak pretty closely to self-driving vehicles. Guys, if you don't know, I moved from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania in August of last year, 2017, and I saw autonomous Ubers every single day. Pittsburgh, PA was another city that allowed autonomous testing with Uber. And still, they are testing. Well, the note, guys, Uber has suspended all autonomous testing because of this accident last night. Tempe, Pittsburgh, and Toronto. they are halting autonomous testing, much like they did with the previous accident. Let's catch up with you guys here. Gina, this is a tragedy that I saw coming from the beginning. Very sad. There is no good, and liability is too high. Jose says, I told you so. Gina says, they're trying to get rid of us real-time drivers, and now we are paying their attorneys' fees again. Uber Shell says, hello, everyone. Kenneth, hello, Mike. Gina says, praying for the victim. However, not clear how Uber blamed for a person walking out in front of a car. These vehicles are a way for Uber to rid live drivers and have to not pay them. They are dangerous and selfish for the idea. All computers fail. That is from Gina again. Absolute MMA 101. Appreciate you being here. Goes to show you can't rely on a machine. And we're going to go into what happened during the actual accident last night. Again, to my point, I recently moved from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania last August. I saw these cars every day. Every single day. They drove near the Bloomfield area of Pittsburgh, Shadyside area of Pittsburgh, Strip District area of Pittsburgh. The Strip District is where they have their Advanced Technology Center. That is the hub of autonomous research. Uber's hub of all autonomous research is there in Pittsburgh in the Strip District. So I saw these cars every day. I saw these SUVs every day, and if you guys don't know, when Uber first started this autonomous testing, it was a Ford Focus, I believe, was the model. A Ford Focus outfitted with, again, optics, cameras. I believe maybe later they added the LiDAR technology, which is a rotating device on the top of these Volvos that are, again, helping the car see, if you will. And I think I have quite a unique experience. I will even say that I think I may have the most unique experience of anyone on YouTube. Why? Because I have ridden in one of these XC90s. I took a ride. I took a ride as a passenger in one of these autonomous Volvo XC90s. And I am a fan of a lot of what these rideshare companies are doing. I'm a tech person. I think the convenience and some of the systems that these companies are doing are brand new. They were completely disruptive in the industry. But business practices left a sour spot for a lot of drivers and passengers. So we talked about this. I like the tech itself, but some of the business practices that these companies are doing is making it a, again, sour spot for the entire rideshare industry. If they could have started this industry, Uber and Lyft, and had some cleaner, tighter, more ethical business practices, I think a lot of us would be more favorable of these companies. But turning this back to self-driving cars, guys, I'm the only person, to my knowledge, that has taken a ride in one of these XC90s. And I can talk to you about that. We're going to talk about, I want to ask you guys, did you feel safe, or would you feel safe taking a ride in a Volvo XC90 before this accident? Answer honestly, and there is nothing wrong with saying, yes, I feel safe. Obviously, I felt safe taking that ride about a year ago, and this was pretty new when Uber was coming to Pittsburgh. I felt safe taking that ride. And I'll answer, do I still feel safe? But I want to hear your thoughts first. Before this accident, before the accident last night, did you feel, or would you feel safe taking an Uber XC90? And note that these cars would be on a programmed route only within a certain area in your city. There is no highway driving. These cars would not go above 40 miles an hour. Knowing that, how safe would you feel requesting or having a autonomous Uber? Next, we'll talk about how you feel now. Let's catch up with you in the comments. Shayla, thanks for joining. Shayla mentions she has a Ford Focus. That was one of the autonomous cars. Francisco, I appreciate you being here. Francisco says, the first and not last autonomous death. Gina says, so sad for the victim and the family. This will continue to be a problem if allowed further. No way a computer should be driving the streets. All technology has faults and can and will crash. Putin, thanks for joining. I see you in the comments. I trust this guy with my life. Kenneth says no. Rideshare2K says, yes, I feel safe. Gina says, absolutely not ever. And Gina says, anything that's not controlled by the human brain and is in control of driving me around. And Gina, again, not a fan of taking one of these vehicles. So, again, what we're asking right now, guys, is would you feel safe taking an autonomous Uber before this accident? Again, I felt safe. I trusted the technology. It is a very sizable SUV. It's a quality vehicle on its own, the Volvo XC90. And I felt safe. And again, knowing that it only drove in certain areas of the city and that it would be below 40 miles an hour, there would be no highway driving. And these were streets that Uber had tested thousands of miles driving those same routes. I felt safe. Gina again says no. Francisco says Dara K is really worse than Kalanick. So let me ask you this, guys. Knowing what you know now and seeing the reports of the fatal accident yesterday, again, if you're just joining, fatal accident yesterday involving an Uber autonomous Volvo XC90 in Tempe, Arizona, just last night at 10 p.m. Knowing what you know now, do you feel any different about the autonomous program at Uber? Do you feel any different in general about autonomous technology? And I will weigh in after I hear from you guys. But let me know. Again, knowing what you know now and learning of this news after Uber's, I believe, about 5 million miles driven. We'll double check on that figure. I want to double check that figure for you. But with Uber's miles that they've documented right now, again, Tempe, Pittsburgh, and Toronto, how does your opinion change of autonomous? Gina says, what about crime? And that's a good question. I was talking to some of my friends about this, is what's going to happen with liability? With the Uber technician that was behind the wheel as a safety backup for emergency scenarios. Let's start talking about what happened last night. The Uber vehicle showed no signs of slowing down before this accident. The Uber technician showed no signs of impairment of any kind. And this is bringing to the forefront questions that everyone had about liability, especially when there's a fatal accident, and it's happening now. And this is tough because it's a hard situation, to say the least. I can't even summarize what happened. Thinking about this on a personal level, thinking strictly about the technology, where's the liability? Is it with Uber? Is it with the driver that was, again, supposed to be a backup for emergency scenarios? Gina says, I know there is only a passenger in the vehicle. Rideshare2K says, one death out of over 1 million miles. compared to millions of deaths from human driver accidents. And we're going to look into that figure. Rideshare 2K, what Rideshare just mentioned. How many deaths are there per human miles driven versus what we experienced yesterday and the miles that Uber has logged? And we're going to look at those numbers. Kenneth feels the same way. No difference? The answer is still no. Gina says it's going to cost Uber more in the end. Absolute MMA says no one should feel safe with Autobot controlled anything. More humanoid bots equals no jobs for us equals more poor people. Human importance being thrown for machines is a sin. That's an interesting point. Where does technology outpace common sense, safety, more wide-reaching just humanity, ethical issues? These are the questions that I'm thinking of. Did Uber move too fast trying to outpace Waymo, which is Google's department of self-driving cars? And were there any corners cut? Remember, Uber was and most likely still is in hot water over that LiDAR technology that allows the vehicle to see. And it was allegedly stolen from Waymo, that LiDAR technology. And I know there's recent developments on that lawsuit, but at the time, it was alleged that that LiDAR technology was stolen from Waymo. Kenneth says, see, the car didn't try to slow down or tried to avoid hitting the person. Absolute MMA makes a good point. Don't forget, computers can be hacked to lead you to your death. And I've heard that. As dark as that sounds, I have heard that from concerns is what happens when someone hacks these self-driving cars and I'm in it. And someone could potentially control this car from who knows where. Gina says, agreed, referencing Absolute MMA's point that we just stated. Putin says, how much does this stall Uber's plans? That's a good question. If I would have to think about this just kind of on a first thought basis, I would think that Uber is going to do they're going to try to do what they can to ensure this doesn't slow plans. They're going to have their legal team do what they need to do, but everything else in the background, unless mandated from a government entity, they're going to keep doing what they're going to do. And of course, this is going to be maybe a settlement is what Uber is going to try to target. It's going to be a very high dollar amount settlement, and Uber will move on. That is what they're probably going to do. They're going to use their legal team. And from what we've seen, Uber invest in a very extensive legal team with the class action lawsuits, with misclassification lawsuits, the lawsuits that will surely come from this. And Gina is asking about the event itself. Let's talk about the event itself. What happened last night in Tempe at 10 p.m. that caused this fatal accident? Gina asks, has it been deemed Uber's fault yet? Did the person walk out in front of the car before it could stop? Gina also says, not looking before crossing. We need facts. Let's go into an article. I want to show you a little bit about what happened here. So there's a few articles that I have pulled up for you. This one from the New York Times. And we're going to read starting from right here. The Uber car, a Volvo XC90 sport utility vehicle outfitted with the company's sensing system, was in autonomous mode with a human safety driver at the wheel, but carrying no passengers when it struck Elaine Herzberg, a 49-year-old woman, on Sunday around 10 p.m. Sergeant Ronald Elcock, a Tempe police spokesman, said during a news conference that a preliminary investigation showed that the vehicle was moving around 40 miles per hour when it struck Ms. Herzberg, who was walking with her bicycle on the street. He said it did not appear that the car had slowed down before impact and that the Uber safety driver had no signs of impairment. The weather was clear and dry. Uber said it would work with police. From what I have heard, Ms. Herzberg was crossing the road, and we will look for more details here as I want to make sure I get you the facts. This article from The Verge: Uber's self-driving car showed no signs of slowing before fatal crash, police say. The pedestrian, Elaine Herzberg, was transported to the hospital where she later died. Herzberg, who was pushing a bicycle across the street, may have been homeless, Tempe Police Sergeant Ronald Alcock said in a press conference. There was a safety driver behind the wheel of the vehicle, identified as Rafael Vasquez, 44. There's no sign that the driver was impaired, police say. An Uber spokesperson confirmed that Vasquez is employed as a safety driver by the ride-hailing giant. The vehicle was traveling in autonomous mode at the time of the crash. So we can see here there's a few more details coming out. We have the speed of the car that was in autonomous mode. But we're seeing there are no signs of slowing down, and Mr. Vasquez showed no signs of impairment. The victim, Ms. Herzberg, was crossing the street, pushing a bicycle. Gina says, "Want us humans made their company, and now we have to pay for all these dumb mistakes." So possibly dark and not Uber's fault, and Gina says. The millionaire millennial, thanks for joining. Not surprised. Don't trust those cars. Knowing those details, and again, there's a few other articles that we can look at. Let's talk about the future of autonomous vehicles, what this means. And I did want to show you one stat. As this was mentioned, about miles. And we're going to start right here. In 2016, 37,461 people died in traffic-related accidents in the United States, according to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. That amounts to 1.8 fatalities per 100 million vehicle miles traveled in 2016. Waymo, which has been testing autonomous vehicles on public roads since 2009, when it was Google's self-driving car project, has said its cars have driven more than 5 million miles, while Uber's cars have covered 3 million miles. So that gives you a rough number on the comparison of human drivers versus Uber's vehicle. 1.18 fatalities per 100 million vehicle miles traveled. That was in 2016. As you can see in that second paragraph, Uber's cars have covered 3 million miles and now have a fatal accident. Rideshare 2K says he got fired. He was a driver. He no longer works for Uber. I've not seen that in an article. Maybe we'll see something come across here today. These articles, we pulled ones that were the most relevant, most recently updated ones, just a few for us to look at here tonight. Gina says she would have seen the car coming before crossing the street, I believe. Rideshare 2K. The person behind the car will probably lose his job. Uber can't keep him employed. Okay, so it looks like we're not sure if the driver is still employed or not. I have not heard any reports that that driver has been terminated from Uber. That driver, Mr. Vasquez, is an Uber employee. Absolute MMA. Lots and lots of lawsuits are what happens when a new company with new ideas and regulations come into the scene. Uber is still too new. Gina says cars are not always at the fault for the driver accidents, a lot of drivers' faults. The millionaire millennial says low fatality number, but more fatalities may and will happen when there are more autonomous cars on the road. Let's talk about the future of autonomous cars. And I was asking you, do you feel safe now, knowing what you know now, taking an autonomous vehicle? If I was in Pittsburgh still, if I was in Pittsburgh and I know the roads in Pittsburgh, I know where Uber has been testing because I have seen them driving. And that's important because Uber kept a very tight map of where they would test. They would not extend into certain neighborhoods because they were only designated to operate in a small pocket. And you could see that when they're driving, they would always make the same turns back into the same area that they were testing in. And again, this was 3 or 4 major neighborhoods in Pittsburgh. If I knew that, I would still take a ride. I would still take a ride knowing that these cars are going 40 and under, knowing my city, and knowing that they're testing in the same pockets. Why did this accident happen? Until we see more investigation as far as why this accident happened, I cannot say whose fault this is. I cannot speculate. I do not want to speculate on whose fault this is. If there was an error in Uber's system or an operator error, or if fault was elsewhere. But given everything is without unique circumstances, abrupt changes in the road, any unique scenarios when driving, if you are driving that autonomous car on a normal day, given assumed normal circumstances, I would take a ride again. Now, if that vehicle was driving on the highway, going above 40, going in new neighborhoods, if it was driving here in San Diego, where I'm not familiar with really most every road like I was in Pittsburgh, and I knew what to expect in Pittsburgh. I could see my routes on the app. I could follow my routes before that car even got to me. And I know every single road that we're going to be on and how that road drives, what I'm going to expect during that ride. I don't know that here. I don't know if I would take one here in San Diego. If it drove 40 and under still, if there was no highway driving, I might. I might take it here. But my passengers, when asking my passengers, 50-50 said yes and 50-50 said no. This was mostly a younger demographic, millennial demographic, and that was 50-50. And I would imagine that before this accident, it probably was 50-50 or close to it. 50-50. Certainly depends on your city, of course. Now, of course, I can bet that number skews. Rideshare 2K says, companies factor in death and lawsuits when they come out with new technology. Excuse me. When there are more autonomous cars on the road, they will talk to each other, meaning less accidents. I appreciate everyone being here on the live stream. Tragic news last night out of Tempe. Uber's XC90, their autonomous vehicle, involved in a fatal accident. And we're talking about the autonomous car space here tonight. Absolute MMA says expect a lot more lawsuits and incidents and accidents this year for Uber and Lyft. Gina says there are more dangerous for other drivers as well. 40 miles per hour is enough compact or impact, I believe, to kill anyone in a car or on the street. And absolutely, that speed, even though it may seem like just 40 miles an hour, an accident is still an accident. It is to be noted, if you are just joining the live stream, that the Uber vehicle involved in the fatal accident last night was going around 40 miles an hour. Excuse me. Gina says, I don't even feel safe with them driving around me. And that is something interesting, is I have walked next to these vehicles when they were driving downtown. Again, I have been in one of these vehicles. I have driven behind, in front of, and next to these vehicles. And I am certainly more on more high alert when I'm near these vehicles, in part because they're very slow and calculated when making turns, for instance. They did drive very somewhat robotically, very by the book, very by the speed limit. And again, when taking turns, they take it very slow and very methodically. The Rideshare Millionaire says, I'd ride one if I wear a helmet. Gina says, the Uber app fails all the time, so no trust at all in their driverless cars. And guys, if you're a driver of Uber, their app does crash somewhat too frequently. It does crash. It lags. It does not display parts of the map or surge rates as it should. And it's crashed in the past, and Uber has had to address the drivers that the app did not work. The Lyft app, for New Year's, maybe 2016, the Lyft app crashed. And Uber's app, again, has done this as well. So to say that these autonomous cars are completely safe and error-proof, they're not just not error-proof on the driving end, on the software end, not even about the autonomous technology, not even about LiDAR and the optics and the cameras, just on the software end. Everything else, that's the brains, the programming behind those features, are not perfect. Gina says also the app crashes daily and navigation as well. I pray for everyone involved, no matter what. And Gina adding, and that's their idea of technology, scary, scary. The millennial, the millionaire millennial says, sometimes it completely crashes at huge concerts because of so much cellular interference. Absolutely. If you guys are driving any big music festivals, a lot of the times those areas are basically jammed for cell coverage. Now, for those events, taking Uber as a passenger myself for some large music festivals, Uber tries their best to spread people out. They will have you go a couple blocks away, let's say. The app will instruct you that you cannot even request a ride at the immediate venue because there's too many people, there's too much cell interference. So, but we're all working with the technology that we have, right? In that circumstance, where the Uber app can't even work, it's working within the parameters of Verizon or AT&T. Excuse me. I want to show you a few other articles here. This one from Bloomberg Technology. Uber halts autonomous car tests after fatal crash in Arizona. And as you can see, the first line here, guys, this is the first known pedestrian death involving a self-driving vehicle. There was speculation, again, about liability. When is this going to happen? And most everyone said, it's not if, it's when. And I will tell you now that I am surprised that this happened relatively so soon. I had more confidence that the system would be cleaner, that it would be safer, that this would not happen, that my biggest question I want to ask you guys, I'm still trying to think about, is with multiple cameras, this vehicle, this XC90, does not just have LiDAR technology, which is basically a radar, if you will. It has optics. It has actual cameras for visuals that it uses as well. And there's even more technology as well. There's multiple levels of different types of technology that are driving this car. With that being said, with Subaru, with all these other companies, Ford, all these other manufacturers having emergency autonomous braking, where was the emergency autonomous braking? If this woman was crossing the street, perpendicular, she was crossing the street, allegedly outside of a crosswalk. And you can see that here in the Bloomberg article, crossing outside of a crosswalk. That's reported by Bloomberg Technology. Regardless of where she was crossing. With consumer level vehicles right now in the market, almost everyone having autonomous emergency braking at some level. Why is this car from the leader in the rideshare industry that can drive itself, that is going to be on open roads maybe next month, pending what's going to happen with this, pending next month? These cars were going to be on the road in California and Arizona with no driver. If that's where we were headed, why did this vehicle not stop itself? Why did this vehicle not have autonomous emergency braking? The only thing I can think of is the victim was crossing a road, seemingly in a dimly lit area on the road. We can see that from the picture, the thumbnail of this video, We saw that in one of the articles. Was it a low light issue? Was it a movement issue? Was there something with the movement that the optics, the LiDAR, something didn't pick it up? When I rode in that XC90 in Pittsburgh as a passenger, they allowed you to see what the Uber car was seeing. They showed you what the LiDAR was seeing. And it displayed the road, things, people, sidewalks as lines and polygons in different colors. It showed you pink polygons, yellow lines, green lines. It showed you the direction the car was traveling in and the borders of the lane that you were in. It was sensing all of these things. And I was told that that technology can see all the way to the sidewalk and even some businesses. That it's looking all the way up until the sidewalk and businesses on the sidewalk. Really in a 360-degree view. How did this vehicle not see movement? How did the vehicle not see movement or detect an object or anything and stop itself? Checking in with you. The millionaire millennial says maybe one of the sensors and cameras was covered up by debris. That is a real challenge. That is an actual real challenge. As simple as that sounds, if debris, a leaf, dirt, snow gets in front of one of the cameras, it's effectively useless unless it's LiDAR. LiDAR is a different technology. Again, kind of like radar. But one of the actual optical cameras, if that gets blocked by debris, that is a real issue. Was this the case? I don't know. Was one of the cameras blocked by debris, effectively blocking its vision from detecting motion? I don't know. I don't know, and I'm not claiming anything of the sort. Absolute MMA. Making a comment here. Not sure that's related to what we're talking about here. The millionaire millennial, do you think Uber has recorded footage of the impact, and are they not telling us something? Guys, Uber absolutely has video and audio footage of the accident. And of course, that's not public record. That is definitely being shared right now with authorities, and they were reviewing that. The interior of the vehicle is recorded as well. That driver is being recorded. If there were any passengers, those passengers would have been recorded. And you have to sign an agreement that you are authorizing to be video and audio recorded when taking an autonomous Volvo. But those drivers are recorded as well on the inside. And you bet that those trips are video recorded, audio recorded on the outside as well. And again, this just happened last night. This happened exactly 24 hours ago. It is now 10 p.m. This happened just about 24 hours ago in Tempe, Arizona. Gina says that we are still in 2018 and not 2025. Just leave the driverless cars out of the equation for another 10 years and try again and pay hardworking drivers what they're investing in these dangerous cars. Gina says, so it sounds like it may not be able to tell a human from something else if it's seeing things in graphs. That is a good point. I do not know if that sensor, whatever was being displayed, if it codes things as human or if it codes things as objects. Can it distinguish? Here's another question. Did it sense something as an object and misclassify it as debris? Did it think that that object was what have you? I don't know. Did it think that it was debris and determined it should keep driving as it was not a human? Did it use data from patterns. And did it say to itself, we have never detected a human on this route, in this area, or generally on these sidewalks? We've detected a few on the sidewalks, but it is not normal to detect a human in this area. This must be debris. This does not look like a human to us because, again, the victim was pushing a bicycle. Did it do something to distort the vision, the algorithm, whatever you want to call it, of Uber's system? Your personal driver, welcome to the live chat. Thank you for being here, Aaron, your personal driver in the live chat. Your personal driver says, I'm streaming at the same time as you. I didn't mean to cut into your time. No worries. No worries there. Gina says, when there are this many questions regarding the cars, then it's an issue already. Should not be so many possibilities for failure due to so many different factors. The reason that Uber could test in Arizona is that Arizona determined there would be a no regulation state for these companies. That Arizona would not regulate, at least heavily, to my knowledge, these autonomous companies, Google, Uber, and others. The millionaire millennial, more info will leak soon by 36 hours or less. I agree. Look for more information coming tonight. Look for more information early morning tomorrow. Aaron, again, in the live chat says, I'm doing the same topic. You roll. Keep channel going. Awesome. Appreciate that, Aaron. Dark Road Run, thanks for joining. Collab with your personal driver. Again, we'll have to get another collaboration going sometime. Uber Girl Monterey, hey, thanks for joining as well. Daniel Smith, thanks for joining. A lot of familiar faces coming over here. Appreciate you being here, guys. Gina says, well, I think you're doing a great job, Mike. I know you will keep us updated. AZ Driver, hey, thanks for being here as always as well, guys. Gina says, hope you are all having a great night. And again, we'll be praying for all those involved. Truly a sad situation. AZ Driver out there in Arizona. It's a top story in local news. So, what we were talking about, if you're just joining this live stream, guys, an Uber autonomous vehicle, the Volvo XC90 that Uber uses in their self-driving car, was involved in a fatal accident last night, Sunday, the 18th, around 10 p.m. in Tempe, Arizona, striking and killing a woman that was crossing the street, pushing a bicycle, and an investigation is ongoing. We were talking about why, how this may have happened. And I was asking you guys the question, why did this Uber vehicle with so much tech behind it, with a $60,000+ SUV equipped with tens of thousands of dollars, if not $100,000+ of technology on the vehicle itself, how did all this technology on this car not detect a person crossing the street, albeit at night? Where was the failure? If there was no failure, in my mind, this car would have stopped on its own. I feel like if there was no failure, if that car was doing what it should be doing, it should detect movement. It should detect movement oncoming into traffic. It should be able to see when someone is going to be in traffic before they're even in traffic. I've told you guys before, if you're driving late night bar hours and you're driving by the bars, look at the sidewalks as well. Because I have seen plenty of times where you see a student, usually a young adult, leaving a bar or saying goodbye to friends, and they are turning away from the road and they're saying goodbye to their friends as they're walking out into the road to cross the street because they are heavily intoxicated. They're going to get their Uber, they're going to get some food, they're going to meet some new friends, and they're saying goodbye, facing away from the street, and they walk into the street. That's what you need to look for if you're driving late night bar hours. And guys, most all of my thousands of rides have been during that exact time of day. At night, 99.9% of those rides have been at night, and most of them have been during those bar hours. You need to anticipate to see, okay, I see this intoxicated person running, chasing a friend, whatever, having a great time. They're drunk and they're running, chasing a friend for whatever reason, okay? And I can see them coming from a side street, approaching an intersection, and I'm sitting at a red light, okay? I'm sitting at a red light. I can see the opposing light turning yellow and then red. I know my light's going to turn green, but I can see them running, and I'm anticipating that a lot of those passengers, they do not care. They do not care who has the right of way. They don't care if they're in a crosswalk. They don't care if you have a green light. So anticipate that. Your light turns green, and those students, those kids, whatever, run in front of you, okay? If you are not paying attention and you just accelerate and you're playing on your phone, you're looking at everyone else instead of scanning the road, seeing movement that looks like it might trend into the street, that's how you keep yourself safe. So again, circling back to Uber's vehicle, why was there no trend and now why could it not see something moving that is, if it continued its movement, would come into the street? It should have some trend analysis that this object is moving at X miles per hour and it's coming into the road. I'm traveling at 40 miles an hour, and if this path continues, we are going to collide. Especially because if there was no one coming in the other direction, why would that vehicle not stop? Or why would it not evade and turn away from that object? Especially, again, if no car was in the other lane, I need to know why it didn't detect the object. This human, did it misclassify a human as an object, or did it not even see the human? Checking in with you guys. Dano says, well, that's where our surge is going, to all those damn features. Uber girl Paula Monterey says, I'm so embarrassed about this. AZ driver says, I feel sorry for the victim and family. I wonder if the video will ever be released. We know they have footage. They absolutely have footage of it. AZ driver says, doubt it as far as being released. Absolute MMA, the autonomous bot is stupider than a 6th grader. Uber girl Paula, yes, Dano, you're right about the videos, I believe. The millionaire millennial says, I bet a current new Camry with a radar system thing does a better job at detecting pedestrians. That's exactly the point. I can't believe this high-end vehicle with all this technology that can drive itself. It can drive itself. It's proven to do that. It can drive itself. How it cannot even detect something crossing into a road? I mean, the LiDAR should be able to pick that up. An optical camera, maybe with motion sensing, should be able to pick that up. Both of these are working together. From my understanding, there's multiple technologies that are working at the same time to double and triple up on itself to verify that something is coming in the road. This goes back to more autonomous deaths. Now, I'll clarify my statement when I said there was no autonomous deaths. Now, there has, if you remember, been an autonomous death with a Tesla Model S, I believe, using its autonomous feature. Now, it is different in the sense that the driver was the passenger versus these cars, which would shuttle the operator, but also the passenger using it as the rideshare service, right? The Tesla death was a fault in their system. If you remember, a Tesla Model S, I believe it was a Model S, impacted the rear of a semi-trailer highway driving going about 65 miles an hour. And that driver was killed. Tesla's autonomous system was at fault. Again, this is from my understanding. This is from what I know about this story. That Tesla's autonomous system did not detect the truck, the semi-trailer, because of reflections in the rear of the vehicle, of the actual truck, and it could not distinguish between the sky and the truck. So it rendered the truck basically invisible to Tesla's system. That car never slowed down. That car never saw, the system never saw that 18-wheeler. Catching up with you guys. Griffin says the autonomous sensors cannot determine the weight of an object. Correct. Yeah, I am not aware of that system. It cannot detect the weight of an object. It can detect the shape. Again, when I took that autonomous ride, it detected lines and polygons, again, of different colors. It was constantly in real time updating. I did not know what the different colors meant. There were different shapes. But from what I remember, it detected people as well. Again, this is strictly off of what I can remember of that ride. It has been maybe a year since I took that ride. But it can detect. And again, from what I'm remembering, that LiDAR, the vision, the technology in that car can see all the way to the sidewalk and some storefronts as well going on. My memory from what I was told from the Uber tech at the time. Griffin says, whoever the poor soul was riding in that car needs to lure up because Uber is going to throw that person under the bus. Liability and fault. Liability and fault is exactly the next steps. Who's liable? Whose fault is it? Was there a system error? What happened here? And I'm sure that's going to come out. More details about what happened in the next 36 hours. The millennial says maybe a burnt fuse circuit somewhere because of no such equipment that's running simultaneously. Well, guys, I do appreciate you being on this live stream here. Any other closing thoughts as we approach an hour on this live stream? This is opening so many more questions. I want there to be a dialogue in the comments section. If you're just jumping on right now, and we're going to be ending this live stream in a few minutes, continue the dialogue in the comments section below. Post questions. We need to debate the questions in the comments section. And we'll also use it as a discussion area for developments in this story. I can post the articles that we listed here in the description as well. And we are wrapping it up here. I see Aaron, your personal driver, just finished his live stream. We are wrapping up here in just a few minutes. But I do want you to continue the discussion in the comments section because there is so many questions. Post your comments that we have not thought of, that we didn't go over, that we didn't have enough time to go over tonight. Post them now in the comments section. I want to hear your questions. If you still feel safe, riding, if you would still feel safe riding in one of these vehicles, know that that opinion is not wrong. that you're allowed to have that opinion, I told you guys I would still take a ride in an autonomous Uber. Granted, I knew a few parameters of that ride. You guys can go and rewatch that dialogue if you'd like. But if you still feel safe, that is fine. I know a lot of people are going to say, no way. Now, if you feel unsafe, that's fine as well, guys. This is a brand new technology. This is the first time this happened. Now, I'm not going to say that Uber is looking more unsafe. Their technology is looking not as reliable, because it's not nowhere near a perfect system. Nowhere near a perfect system. When I say it, I would still take a ride. Okay. And when I ask my passengers, again, remember guys, when I ask my passengers, 50% said they would, 50% said they wouldn't. With these new technologies, you're going to have early adopters. Then you're going to have the minority that start using the system or the product. As it gains popularity and it's vetted by those early adopters and the minority that start, then it starts to scale. And then you have some doubters at the end that finally try it. That's kind of the norm of the bell curve on how new products are adopted, and it's kind of only amplified with systems like this that are extremely disruptive. Francisco says, stick with Lyft. Guys, if you remember, if you're in the Las Vegas market, or if you saw the video we did on this, Lyft had autonomous vehicles as well at the Consumer Electronics Show, CES, just this year. They had their own autonomous BMWs, and Lyft has partnered with several companies to develop their self-driving vehicles. And Lyft has been doing this as well, not testing on live roads in the same way that Uber has, however. Mike South, thanks for joining. Tech has gone too far. There should not be driverless cars. Your personal driver says Lyft is going to beat Uber to driverless cars. And your personal driver says Lyft cars actually work, Ubers don't. I've not heard anything negative to my knowledge of those Lyft autonomous vehicles. But guys, we are going to close up the live stream with that. I do appreciate you watching. I appreciate you being here on the live stream. Something really tough to talk about tonight. But I want you to continue this dialogue in the live chat below. I will be there in the comments having that dialogue with you. Please post your questions about autonomous technology, about what happened last night, about Uber's self-driving car technology, and the future of rideshare. Remember, Uber was planned on testing without drivers just next month, just in a couple of weeks in California, here in California, and Arizona. We'll see what happens there, guys. Again, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.